dabbled in poetry in my free time, but then unfortunately my husband died at a very young age, and I was left trying to figure out how to support myself and my family. So I took all that poetry that I had been writing all those years and published my first book. And then that same year, 1887, I took a job with the Atlanta Constitution, which makes me Georgia's first paid female journalist.
Wow, wonderful.
Thank you. But I did not stop there. I formed the Georgia Women's Press Club, the Atlanta Writers Club, which is still in practice today, and also one of my poems became the Georgia State Anthem for a while. But we're here at Oakland. Let's talk about Oakland. So Oakland was established in 1850. Now, about that time, the city cemetery was actually located a little bit further in town. It was right by the intersection of Peachtree and Baker, but the city was expanding, and city leaders, they wanted to accommodate the larger population, and they also wanted a cemetery that was way out in the country. That's where we are, about 6 miles away. So, as I mentioned, it was established in 1850. We started out with 6 acres and then expanded it in a couple years to 48 acres. That's the size of the cemetery today. We have 70,000 people buried here, and Oakland is an active cemetery. We still have about 15 burials every year. Tonight, you get a chance to see Oakland in a way that people don't normally get to see Oakland. You're going to meet 7 of our residents. We call them residents, and they are going to tell you about their life and how they ended up here in Oakland. And just so you know, this is not a scary tour. No one's going to jump out and, you know. They are here to enlighten, not frighten. Enlighten, not frighten.
Now, before we get into my somewhat scandalous escapades, let me tell you about the rest of the family here at the Murphy Mausoleum. I would introduce you, but everyone's out and about tonight. Our mausoleum is an exquisite example of neoclassical design. You can tell by the columns. And there is a lovely stained glass angel inside, not dedicated to me, I assure you, but to my father. Both my parents are buried here. Both were children of Irish immigrants. My father, John Murphy, was vice president of the Trust Company of Georgia Bank, and into steel, cotton oil, and railroads, of course. In 1918, the newspaper called Papa Atlanta's leading capitalist, which is why we had rather a lot of money. My mama, Julia Gatens Murphy, bought our plot here at Oakland, and I must ask you a favor regarding Mama. If you see her, don't mention the champagne. She, disapproves of liquor, and men, and parties, and really fun of any kind, so, let's keep our secret, shall we? My sister Catherine's also buried here. Katie, we called her, even though she hated it. Or perhaps because she hated it. And 2 of her husbands are here, the Riley brothers, Jim and Julian. They were always mad about Katie, so she married them both. Not at the same time, of course. Anyway, should I tell you about my travels out west? Or chat about my French finishing school in New York? Or shall we get to the fun, where I married a playboy who built one of Atlanta's most famous mansions for me? Yeah. Conky Pate Whitehead was the charming man who became my husband in 1922. He had seen me speeding down Peachtree Street one day with the top down in the middle of winter, wearing my favorite fur coat, and fell immediately in love with me. Conky's family was rich, with a capital R. His father and a partner bought the bottling rights to Coca-Cola in 1899 for $1. Conky lived his whole life in the society pages, and our marriage was big news. We sailed on the Mauritania for our 2-year honeymoon, which was grand since Prohibition had been passed in the U.S. If you've never been to Paris to drink champagne, you must go. Upon our return, Conky built me a house on West Paces Ferry Road called Villa Juanita. Acres of land, a swimming pool, and 10-foot-high fences for my beloved dogs, though we joked it was to keep Mama from snooping about. I hear it sold for millions in 2016. Our parties lasted for days. People called it the Great Gatsby House. Bootleggers and debutantes danced the Charleston till dawn. During one such bash, Mama sent my sister out to spy on me. When she arrived, Katie found Conky in the driveway fighting with a taxi driver who had driven him all the way home from the Kentucky Derby. And later, Mama sent someone else to find Katie, who had joined the party. But after 7 years, Conky ran off with a dancer, and I sued for divorce. The newspaper printed a picture of him on his yacht with the girl attached to his side like a barnacle. It was Bon Voyage Conky. So, in 1932, I married Osgood Robert Hungerford. He was penniless, but I didn't need more money. So we traveled. In Monte Carlo, we met the actress Fanny Bryce. I hear they made a musical about her called Funny Girl, which she certainly was. And we met the actor Maurice Chevalier, who made a pass at me, and Lady Mountbatten, who made a pass at Osgood. Or perhaps it was the other way around. Anyway, in 1935, after a series of dull illnesses, I died at 38 years old and left Villa Juanita to darling Katie. She founded the Catherine and John Murphy Foundation, and the Catherine Murphy Riley Outpatient Diagnostic Center at Piedmont Hospital is named in her honor. Katie stayed in our villa until her death in 1985, though I am sure her parties were much tamer than when Conky and I were skinny dipping at midnight and sleeping till noon. But now you must go on and meet the other charming guest here at our Oakland soiree. Au revoir. And remember, don't tell Mama about the champagne. Good night.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Some folks just didn't know what to think of me. Now, can you folks hear me clear back over there? You want to come a little closer? Okay. Now, let me take a look at you. Clear eyes, wholesome complexions. I am guessing that you are not here for a checkup, but came to hear some local history. That's just fine, but let me warn you, we could be interrupted at any time. Emergencies are still a normal part of my day, even in the afterlife. Now, I was born Jenny Newman in 1861, but let me tell you folks something about history. History can be a mystery with conflicting facts. For example, I was definitely born in 1861 in Tennessee, or maybe Georgia, just depending on what you read. But the 1870 census does show me living in Atlanta with my family, including my two younger brothers, William and Wallace. William and Wallace also happen to be the first names of my two husbands. So it can get a little confusing. Now, my first husband, William Jones, left barely a trace on the pages of history. What became of him is unknown. But sometimes the less said, the better. After our little son Cliff died in 1884, I went back to being Miss Jenny Newman. And then in 1900, the census shows me married to Wallace Norris. Now, the census taker did spell Wallace's name wrong, which is a little more confusion, but that was a fairly common mistake. But one fact you can count on is that my parents, Captain William G. Newman and Julia Frances Logan Newman, reside right here in Oakland Cemetery with us. My father was a twice wounded veteran of the Mexican and Civil Wars. He served on the Atlanta City Council, and he even headed up a commission investigating the innovative concept of free public schools. Now, perhaps my interest in medicine came from hearing my father's stories about being wounded in battle. But you know, I always did wonder why there weren't lady doctors delivering babies. After all, in the 19th century, a lady didn't even show her bare ankles, yet was expected to have a man doctor in the delivery room. Well, having a doctor around was important. Pregnancy and childbirth could be deadly. Imagine, in 1900, for every 100,000 births, nearly 1,000 women died. If you look around Oakland, you'll find many a young woman who perished in childbirth, and they're oftentimes buried right next to the tiny graves of their infants. I wanted to change that. Of course, there were those who said it wasn't appropriate for me, a woman, to become a doctor. But I let my success shine through the fog of their prejudice. Progress is made from action, not opinion. So in 1891, I was one of 7 graduates of the Women's Medical College of Georgia. Miss Jenny Newman, physician. Then in 1900, I married Wallace, and we lived and worked right over in Grant Park on Oakland Avenue. Wallace joined me in my practice, but you will never find a record of his medical education. Back then, men could still become doctors by apprenticing. Now think about it. A doctor whose only education was on-the-job training. But Wallace was a very good doctor. He supported me in so many ways, and we stood together when we were both arrested. I know. It was really quite tragic. One of our lady patients died in our care. We were accused of performing an illegal operation. Perhaps we were reckless, willing to go to any means to save our patient, but that was my job. It's hard enough to lose a patient after surgery, but then to be taken to court is just devastating. Blessedly, we were found not guilty, and our practice survived, but it was a very difficult time. But as a doctor, one must persevere, and I did. I practiced medicine until the 1930s, over 150,000 cases, delivered 3,000 babies, including 10 sets of twins. But Wallace and I never had a baby of our own. But we did adopt our daughter, Marion. She was 10 years old when she came into our lives. And she'd oftentimes come to the office with me, but I was never sure if she was truly interested in medicine or just there for the lollipops. And perhaps that's why you're here too. Now, you might have noticed when you were walking around that this area is in need of some tender, loving care. East Hill is Oakland's next big restoration project. Anyone donating the cause tonight will receive a sweet treat. If you'd like to help us out, just drop $1 or so into my satchel and help yourself to a lollipop. You also have opportunities up by the visitor center and at the membership table. But whatever you do, your generosity is greatly appreciated. And I want to tell you, come back again some nice warm sunny day, because I am always here. No appointment needed. Thank you, and good night. Thank you. Anyone like a lollipop?
But don't worry, this one don't have your name on it. Yet. I was born in Vermont in 1815, but came down south in my 20s and became a real Southerner. I even adopted the accent too, because, well, it's good for business. Then I was a born salesman. I had a real talent for telling you the truth without being completely honest. So, of course, I was a natural-born politician as well. I ran for city council and I won. Easily. Speaking of honesty, don't you folks go believing everything these dead folks tell you tonight? Just because they moved on, don't make them all angels. Especially keep an eye out for that red wine fella. He's a smooth talker. You'll know it when you meet him, so keep a close watch on your wallet and your date. Of course, as a salesman, I did my fair share of sweet talking with the ladies. I even convinced the beautiful young woman to be my wife, though I was nothing much to look at. We bought property up in Cobb County, over 100 acres. Our house even survived the battle at Kennesaw Mountain, led by that, Chandler fella. Might have heard of him. While I was off being a sharpshooter for the southern side, those Union soldiers used my house as a hospital. Now here it's used for fancy parties and such these days. You'll find it near downtown Marietta. It's known as the William McAdoo House because the 46th U.S. Secretary of the Treasury from 1913 to 1918 was born there. Though if I do say so myself, the Stephen B. Oakman House has quite a ring to it too, don't it? Of course, for all my skill with words, couldn't out-talk death, though I certainly did try. And he came for me in 1903. I was 87 years old when I was buried right here at Oakland, right over by the entryway. Sometimes I think about when I first came down south, when this town was nothing more than a few wooden houses stretched along a red dirt road. They used to say that you could have a bear walking through your front yard and a bobcat sitting on your back stoop. Simpler times, I suppose. Of course, them steam engines and automobiles may have changed all that. But you know what don't change? The circle of life and the market for marble headstones. Salesman, always salesman. Speaking of headstones, did you folks know that you can still be buried right here at Oakland? Yep, you just call them up on one of them mobile telephones you carry around with you. Tell them Stephen B. Oatman sent you. I'm sure they'd be happy to take care of you. Of course, I won't be there to make your headstone. But don't worry, you're welcome to come visit anytime you like, alive or otherwise. Well, thanks for stopping by tonight, folks. Have a marvelous evening.
Y'all come on up. Y'all come on up. Leave this great divide between us. Is this the rest of y'all's group still coming?
Yep.
Okay. Maybe we should have some musicians play us some tunes while we wait. Y'all can come on up. You don't need to stand way back there in the back on the street. Come on in. I do. But only when asked. Y'all come on. Now, my name is Lewis Parks Redwine. Now, I've been called many a things in my day. Handsome, charming, flirt, scoundrel. Now, I know that marble man Oatman down there warned you about me. Well, I can assure you folks, I am a perfectly decent fella. Except for the stolen millions, of course. Now, my father was the respectable Dr. C.L. Redwine. Attended medical school at New York University before returning south to marry my mother, Sarah Claire Glenn. I was their firstborn, arriving in Noonan in 1858. Now, my mother, she died when I was just 8 years old. Heartbreak at such a young age can harden a boy. Perhaps it was then that I decided to seek a life of pleasure rather than respectability. Now, my father moved to Atlanta, got remarried, opened up a popular drugstore and soda shop on Marietta Street. He was a member of the board of the Atlanta Medical College, which is now Emory University School of Medicine. But I, on the other hand, was left in Noonan with an uncle. No. That would not do. As soon as I could, I moved to Atlanta and into the famous Kimball House Hotel. I was immediately swept up into Atlanta high society alongside the Grants, Grant Park, and the Inmans of Inman Park. I was a member of the Piedmont Driving Club and the Capital City Club, and, well, you may remember that fella from last year, Joseph Brown Connolly. Well, he started the Cotillion Club, and I was a member there, too. Endless parties. A personal life that swirled with rumors linking me romantically to everyone in town. Everyone. Including my best friend, Thomas Cobb Jackson. Now, being a playboy, that is an expensive pastime. So my father was quite relieved when I got myself one of those proper jobs at the Gate City National Bank. Till one morning in 1893, well, they discovered a slight discrepancy in the books. A mysterious withdrawal by yours truly in the amount of $25,000. That's over $700,000 today. Now, the bank manager, he sent for me straight away. But I just slipped out the front door and ran. Now, soon after, more money was found missing, totaling over $3 million today. The bank was wrecked, forced to close its doors. And society was shocked. And I was on the run. Then my best friend, Tom Cobb, well, he killed himself. Now, folks will say he was distraught over a recent friend's death, but others blamed me, thinking he was all just part of my scheme. Of course, Tom wasn't around to deny it, and, well, I just wasn't around. Wish I could say I was hiding out in some fabulous Parisian hotel, but I was just in a dusty boarding house on the west side. That landlady turned me in for the reward money. It was mortifying. I mean, it's not like I'm some common criminal. Several, and I mean several, of my lady friends, they're all investigated. They even arrested one, searched her whole house, but didn't find anything. Police were certain that I had accomplices, but I never said a word. So I went to prison. Can't say I recommend it. The food is awful, and the outfits are just all unflattering. Of course, while I was detained, I did receive a rather large inheritance from another of my lady friends. This got all the tongues a-wagging about hush money. But in a twist, it just might surprise you, I was pardoned by President William McKinley in 1897. Of course, it was due to the efforts of my good father. He even arranged to have some newly tailored garments sent so I could re-enter the world in style. Now, the police, when I got out, well, they just kept following me around. I mean, it's not like I'm going to lead them to all that cash. It was never found. The prison does take a toll on a gentleman's health, and, well, I died 3 years later in Louisiana before being brought back here to Oakland. Speculation did continue, not as much about my innocence or my guilt, but really it was just about those mysterious accomplices. Now, folks, I may be an embezzler, but I am still a gentleman. And I took that secret all the way to my grave, along with the location of all the cash. And perhaps it's tucked under the floorboards of a rambling old home in Grant Park. Was it Inman Park? Oh, I know. All that money tucked away in a secret compartment in an old house just right over there on... Would you look at the time? Folks, I'm afraid we're out of it, and y'all must be going on. Have a good evening. Good night.